As editors, part of our job is to mold and shape the performance of actors and actresses to highlight their strengths and hide their weaknesses. In the last module, we looked at some of the essential dialogue editing skills you'll need to have in your toolkit. Now, we'll be using those skills, along with our own artistic vision and good taste, to sculpt and shape the actor's performance in a scene. Our primary focus here should be editing the drama in a way that helps the actors deliver a performance to most fully accomplish the scene's objective. Let's dig in. When you're cutting a dialogue scene, the first thing you need to figure out is whose scene is it and what's the objective of the scene? Which beats, plot points, and character details should the scene be developing? Now, let's watch the scene that we structured out earlier to refresh our memories.
Cinder,
Hi, Max.
thank you so much for helping me out with that paper. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now. So what was the word for orange?
Orange?
Sir, could you spell that for me? Oh, damn. Before I forget, I'm having this party tonight.
A party? Sounds great.
Yeah, and I was wondering, if you're not too busy, could you possibly help me out with the final as well? I'm so busy, I don't think I'll have time to do both.
Oh.
Alright, so that's our starting point. Now, let's answer some important questions about the scene. Alright, so whose scene is it? Which character should get the most attention and focus in the cut? And whose eyes is the audience looking through? Cinder. Not only is she our protagonist, but she's also the character in the scene that goes through the most emotional change and development, from infatuation to excitement to disappointment. Alright, so you're cutting a scene, and you know which character should be the focus. So what does that mean editorially? How does that change the way you should actually cut the dialogue and approach the scene as a whole? Let's explore how we can shift our scene's focus from one character to another, in this case, from Max to Cinder. We've already talked a bit about how to accomplish a shift in character focus using the split edit, but now it's time to dig a little bit deeper. Let's begin. To start, we'll be using reaction shots to create viewer empathy here. By showing the viewer exactly how your primary character is feeling, you'll help establish a stronger connection between them and your audience. On a similar note, we'll be showing all the changes in emotion to give the scene the full dramatic range of performance and demonstrate the transformation of the character. Yes, changes of emotion are basically the same as reactions, but I think it's important to distinguish between them, because some changes of emotion can be quite subtle. We might not necessarily peg them as traditional dramatic reaction shots. However, they can still be incredibly important to the meaning and the subtext of the scene. Finally, we're going to want to work to simply include more coverage of the character who's meant to be in focus. By simply giving them more screen time, they'll have a greater presence, and will naturally start to take over the scene. Since the shots on our timeline are currently color-coded by character for this lesson, we can quickly see how much coverage there is of Max in the blue clips compared to Cinder in the pink. You can see that most of the lines are actually spoken by Max. This scene is a great example of where the character doing most of the talking isn't actually supposed to be the star. We've already used some split edits in order to overlap Cinder's shots with Max's lines a bit, giving her some more time on camera. But we can see that we weren't able to get that much more coverage on Cinder with our current shot arrangement. We'll have to do a little more work to get this working correctly. Ultimately, we're going to need to replace a couple shots of Max completely with coverage of Cinder listening. That way, we'll be on the back of his head while he speaks a few lines, allowing us to focus on Cinder's face, giving her character a greater presence in the scene, while simultaneously showing her reactions and changes in emotion. In this lesson, we talked about the importance of cutting for your scene objective, and determining which character should be in focus. Through whose eyes are we experiencing the scene? Then we looked at how to shift that focus from one actor to another, specifically by manipulating reaction shots, visible emotions, and screen time. Coming up in the next lesson, we're going to use all these techniques and more to really start shaping and sculpting the performance in the scene. Alright, I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so now that we're armed with the necessary tools to mold and shape a dialogue scene into what it needs to be, let's spend a bit of time getting our hands dirty and working with the cut. Our current goal is to shift the focus of the scene from Max's character to Cinder's. One of the ways we talked about doing that is by simply getting more coverage of her into the cut, possibly by removing some of Max's shots entirely. Let's start at the beginning and see what we're dealing with here. Let's roll back the coverage of Cinder to cover Max. If the timing of the two shots is similar, they should line up pretty close. Nice. That's a lot more coverage on Cinder right at the top of the scene. But let's see if it works with the timing of Max's line.
Cinder,
Hi, Max.
thank you.
That works great. So what other shots can we swap to give Cinder some more screen time?
Hi, Max.
Thank you so much for helping me out with that paper. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now. So what was the word for orange?
Alright, so in this section, we're on Max for a long time. He thanks her for the help with his paper. We see a quick reaction shot of her, which we added because it was mentioned in the script. Then we've got him on camera for about another 8 seconds while he continues. Now, instead of just having her on camera for her reaction between his lines, let's put some more of his dialogue on the back of his head and sit on the shot of Cinder for longer. Let's try rolling her reaction shot forward over his line and see how that works. Now we've got even more coverage on Cinder. Let's see how it plays.
That paper. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now.
So the timing doesn't quite work. The delivery of Max's line in the shot we're using for Cinder's reaction is a bit delayed. If we were to use this shot of her and let his line play out, we'd have to open up the timing of the sequence pretty substantially. I'll show you what I mean.
Cinder,
Hi, Max.
thank you so much for helping me out with that paper. I really think that I'm starting to finally, get the hang of this French thing. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now.
Max.
Thank you so much for helping me out with that paper. I really think that I'm starting to finally, get the hang of this French thing. So what was the word for orange?
Yeah, that doesn't quite work. There's too much dead space between her smile and the start of his line.
Thank you so much for helping me out with that paper. I really think that I'm starting to finally, get the hang of this French thing.
It slows the pacing of this moment too much, and it makes the scene drag. In this circumstance, it's not really working as a dramatic pause, since nothing has really happened yet. It's just boring. So what can we do? Simple. Let's look through the other takes on Cinder's reaction, and see if we can find out where Max starts his line sooner.
I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now.
So here, Cinder's reaction is actually overlapping quite a bit with Max's line, so there's essentially no pause at all. That will probably be perfect for this situation since we're trying to keep the conversation moving.
Hi, Max.
Thank you so much for helping me out with that paper. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now. So what was the word?
Okay, great. That's working. Let's keep going.
So what was the word for orange?
Orange?
Sorry. Could you spell that for me? Oh, damn. Before I forget, I'm having this party tonight.
A party? Sounds great.
So in this section, we've got a number of problems. The number one problem is that we're sitting on Max for a long time. Cinder is getting a little bit lost here. The other problem is that Max's lavalier mic is picking up a ton of cloth rustling as he turns back and forth.
Oh, damn. Before I forget,
Audio cleanup is something that we'll typically worry about later, but this is a problem that's going to be pretty tough to fix. If we can solve that issue now by using a different shot, we'll be much better off in the long run. So the question is, how can we find a way to cover this moment in a way that gives us more time on Cinder and cleans up Max's audio at the same time? Let's take a look at Max's takes, where he asks, "Can you spell that for me?" I want to see if he reads his line before he turns around, so it's not interrupted by the clothing movement. Here we go.
So much for helping me out with that paper. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now. So what was the word for orange?
Orange?
Yeah. Could you spell that for me? Oh, damn. Before I forget, I'm having this party.
That works. So now, let's give Cinder some more coverage here. Let's see what happens if we roll back Cinder's shot all the way to cover the rest of Max's dialogue.
Orange.
Orange?
Yeah. Could you spell that for me? No. Oh, damn, before I forget, I'm having this.
Almost. Let's get a little bit more at the top of Max before he turns.
Yeah. Could you spell that for me? No. Oh, damn, before I forget,
There it is. Okay, so for structure, this section is going to work pretty well now. We've cleaned up a bit of the cloth sounds, covering Max's line, and we've got Cinder on camera for much more, helping to shift the scene's focus to her.
Thank you so much for helping me out with that paper. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now. So what was the word for orange?
Orange?
Yeah. Could you spell that for me? No. Oh, damn, before I forget, I'm having this party tonight.
A party?
Now, we do have 3 takes of this moment on Cinder to choose from.
Could you spell that for me? No.
It's always important to check back with your source material to make sure you are using the best take. Currently, we're using take 1.
Spell that for me? No.
Here's take 2.
Yeah, that's right. Can you spell that for me?
And finally, take 3.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. Can you spell that for me? No.
We should be judging these takes based on 3 things. First, can we smoothly cut from Max's previous shot with him holding the pen? If we cut on the movement of him turning, that shouldn't be a problem with most of these. Second, we need to look at Cinder's facial expressions after Max asked for help with the spelling. Is her reaction believable and interesting? Or is it over or underacted for the moment? And third, we need to look at Cinder's delivery of her upcoming line, where she asks about the party and then tries to downplay her excitement.
Oh, damn. Before I forget, I'm having this party tonight.
A party? Sounds great.
Yeah.
I think take 3 works best on all 3 of these points. Let's cut it in and have a look.
Spell that for me? No.
All right, great. That's working. At this point, I'm just going to add a couple more reactions from Cinder in the back end of the cut to get her on camera for the transition of her excitement to disappointment as she realizes that Max is not inviting her to the party. He's just asking for more help with school.
Possibly help me out with the final as well. You know, I suck at these things and I won't have enough time to do both.
No.
So at this point, we've made some pretty substantial changes to the way that we're covering the scene, with the goal of shifting the focus more to Cinder's character. You can see, just by looking at our color coding of visuals, that we've got Cinder on camera for quite a bit more. Originally, she made up about 27% of the screen time. Now, she's on camera for 66% of the time. And of course, she's on camera at the right moments with the right reactions. I'm going to play the scene the way it was before we modified the coverage, and then after. First, our original cut.
Cinder,
Hi, Max.
thank you so much for helping me out with that paper. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now. So what was the word for orange?
Orange?
Sorry. Could you spell that for me? Oh, damn. Before I forget, I'm having this party tonight.
A party? Sounds great.
Yeah, and I was wondering, if you're not too busy, could you possibly help me out with the final as well? I'm so busy, I don't think I'll have time to do both.
Oh.
Okay, that feels pretty focused on Max's character. Now, let's look at the dialogue exchange after we try to shift the focus more to Cinder.
Cinder,
Hi, Max.
thank you so much for helping me out with that paper. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this French thing now. So what was the word for orange?
Orange?
Yeah. Could you spell that for me? Oh. Oh, damn. Before I forget, I'm having this party tonight.
A party? Sounds great.
Yeah, and I was wondering, if you're not too busy, could you possibly help me out with the final as well? I suck at these things, and I won't have enough time to do both.
Oh.
Can you feel the difference? The exact same lines are being spoken, most by Max, but now they're covered much differently. The focus has dramatically shifted to Cinder's character, which was the original intent of the scene as written in the script. Over the last few lessons, we looked at some ways to help determine the primary goal of the scene, and how that will editorially affect the cut. Then we walked you through an example of how to shift which character is the focal point. And finally, we spent a bit of time really working with the cut, learning specifically how to mold and shape the actor performance to make everything work as intended. Coming up in the next lesson, we'll be learning a lot more about how to focus a viewer's attention, but this time using the power of sound editing. All right, I'll see you in a bit.